How to Overcome Laziness by Daniel Kraft, published by Audiobooks Hub. Introduction. Laziness. It's a word we've all used to scold ourselves. It creeps in quietly, disguised as a need for rest, a moment of delay, or a harmless distraction. Before we know it, hours pass, then days, and sometimes even years, with dreams deferred and goals shelved. But what if I told you that laziness isn't the enemy? What if it's simply a misunderstood signal from your mind, a reflection of something deeper, something entirely within your power to understand and change? This book isn't about shouting motivational slogans or guilting yourself into action. It's about uncovering the real reasons behind inaction and learning practical ways to rewire your thinking and behavior. Laziness is not a character flaw. It's a symptom of disconnection between what you want and how you see yourself getting there. It can be rooted in fear, overwhelm, lack of clarity, or even a poorly defined goal. The good news? Each of these can be addressed with the right mindset, habits, and tools. If you've picked up this book, chances are you've struggled with procrastination, lack of energy, or the constant cycle of planning without doing. You're not alone. The world today is full of distractions that steal our time and attention. Our brains are overloaded with information. Our to-do lists are endless, and our energy is scattered. It's no surprise that many of us find ourselves stuck in the comfort of doing nothing. But deep inside, you probably feel the urge to do more, to become more. You want to wake up feeling motivated, make progress in your work, your passions, your life. You're tired of watching time slip by while your potential remains untapped. That quiet voice inside you, the one that says, "I'm capable of more," is right. And this book is your guide to unlocking that voice and turning it into action. We're going to take a journey together through 10 chapters that are designed to shift your mindset and build new habits. We'll explore why laziness happens, how your environment affects you, what role your goals and emotions play, and most importantly, what you can start doing today to break the cycle. Each chapter will combine insights from psychology, real-life examples, and simple steps you can apply right away. This isn't theory. This is practical, human, and personal. You'll learn how to outsmart your own brain when it resists effort. You'll understand the sneaky tricks your mind plays to keep you safe and comfortable in inaction. You'll develop routines that make movement easier than stillness, and you'll discover how tiny, consistent steps can lead to massive change. You'll see that motivation isn't something you wait for, it's something you create. And most importantly, you'll begin to rebuild your self-trust, the belief that you can rely on yourself to follow through. One of the biggest myths about laziness is that it's a fixed trait, that some people are just born unmotivated. This couldn't be further from the truth. Laziness is not who you are. It's simply how you've been reacting to certain situations. And just like any habit, it can be replaced. The difference between those who take action and those who don't isn't discipline or talent. It's a set of internal strategies and external systems that make action easier than avoidance. Throughout this book, I'll ask you to reflect on your habits, your goals, and your beliefs. I'll challenge you to question the stories you've been telling yourself about your worth, your abilities, and your future. You'll probably recognize parts of yourself in the stories and examples you'll read. You might feel a little uncomfortable at times, but that discomfort is where the transformation begins. And here's a little secret. The goal isn't to become a productivity machine that's always on. It's not about hustle for the sake of hustle. It's about aligning your actions with what truly matters to you so that your energy flows naturally toward your purpose. When your actions match your values, effort doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like meaning. So take a deep breath. You don't need to have everything figured out right now. All you need is the willingness to take the first step. You've already done that by reading these words. The rest will follow, one small action at a time. You have more power than you think, and it's time to reclaim it. Chapter 1. Laziness often feels like an invisible weight pressing down on our shoulders, holding us back from starting, continuing, or finishing something we know we should do. But before we can overcome it, we have to understand what it really is. Laziness isn't simply a lack of effort. It's a response to fear, overwhelm, low energy, boredom, or even perfectionism. When you look closer, you'll realize that what you call laziness might actually be a symptom of something deeper. Let's imagine a typical day. You wake up with good intentions. You think, today I'll be productive. I'll clean the kitchen, write that email, go for a jog. But hours pass, and you find yourself scrolling on your phone, watching random videos, maybe getting a snack every half hour, and thinking, why can't I just do what I said I would? That inner frustration builds, but strangely, it doesn't lead to action. It leads to guilt, and guilt leads to more inaction. It's a cycle. Here's the truth. The problem isn't that you're lazy. The problem is that your brain is wired to avoid pain and discomfort. Even mild psychological discomfort, like uncertainty, effort, or fear of failing, is enough to trigger avoidance behavior. The brain sees work as a threat to comfort, so it guides you toward easier, more pleasurable things, like checking your notifications or re-watching your favorite show. It's not personal, it's biological, but that doesn't mean you're stuck with it. The first step in breaking the cycle is awareness. Instead of labeling yourself as lazy, pause and ask, what am I really avoiding right now? Is it the effort something will take? Is it the fear that it won't be good enough? Is it not knowing where to begin? Most often, people don't procrastinate because they're unmotivated. They procrastinate because they feel overwhelmed. The task ahead seems too big, too complicated, or too far for reward. And so, the brain takes the easier route, do nothing. To begin changing this pattern, shrink the size of the task. One of the most effective tools you'll ever learn is the 2-minute rule. If a task feels heavy, reduce it to something that takes less than 2 minutes. Don't commit to writing a book. Commit to writing 1 sentence. Don't commit to running 5 kilometers. Commit to putting on your running shoes. The goal is not to do everything. The goal is to start. Starting changes your mental state. Action creates momentum, and momentum defeats laziness. Here's something else to consider. Most people think motivation comes before action, but in reality, it often works the other way around. Action leads to motivation. When you take even a tiny step forward, your brain registers progress, and progress feels good. That good feeling creates more desire to continue. So instead of waiting for motivation, start doing. Let action create the fuel. Now let's talk about energy. Sometimes what we call laziness is really just exhaustion, physical, emotional, or mental. You can't expect yourself to be productive if your body is running on empty. That's why managing your energy is just as important as managing your time. Get enough sleep. Drink more water. Move your body, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Eat food that nourishes you. And don't underestimate the power of taking real breaks. Not scrolling breaks. Not pretending to rest while feeling guilty breaks. Real, intentional rest. Another major player in the laziness cycle is perfectionism. Many people don't start because they fear they won't do it perfectly. So instead of risking failure, they choose inaction. But here's the twist. Perfectionism doesn't protect you from failure. It guarantees it by stopping you from trying. The cure for perfectionism is to give yourself permission to be average, especially at the beginning. Start messy. Start bad. Just start. You can always improve later. Progress is better than perfection because perfection doesn't exist. A powerful way to shift your mindset is to redefine success. Instead of thinking of success as completing everything, think of success as showing up. If you showed up for yourself today, you succeeded. If you tried, even a little, you succeeded. This approach builds consistency, and consistency builds discipline. And discipline over time, builds results. Let's look at an example. Sarah wants to start exercising regularly. She sets a goal to work out 5 days a week. The first few days, she's motivated, but then she misses a day, feels discouraged, and starts skipping more. Her inner critic says, "You'll never stick with it. You're just lazy." But what if Sarah had redefined her goal to be, "I'll move my body every day in any way, even for 1 minute"? That's a goal she could stick to, even on hard days. And sticking to it would rebuild her trust in herself, which would make larger goals more realistic later on. Laziness loses its power when you stop feeding it shame. Guilt makes you spiral. Self-compassion helps you rise. When you feel stuck, don't beat yourself up. Be curious. Ask, what's blocking me right now? And what's the smallest thing I can do to move forward? Then do that small thing. One action, one breath, one moment of movement. That's how change begins. Remember, you're not here to become a productivity robot. You're here to reclaim your energy, your focus, and your life. You're here to do meaningful things with your time. Not everything, just the right things. Laziness is not who you are. It's a habit your brain has learned. And habits can be unlearned, replaced, reshaped. In the chapters ahead, we'll go deeper into how to build these new habits, how to manage distractions, how to structure your days, and how to reconnect with your goals. But for now, start small. Pick one thing you've been putting off. Break it into a tiny step. Do that step, and then notice how it feels, not just what you accomplished, but how it feels to move again. You're not lazy. You're just ready to change. Let's keep going. Chapter 2. Laziness often thrives in an environment that makes it easy to avoid responsibility and hard to focus. While we tend to think of laziness as something internal, our surroundings play a much bigger role than we realize. The truth is, your environment can either support your goals or sabotage them. If you're constantly battling distractions, clutter, or chaos, it's no wonder that getting started feels impossible. That's why changing your environment is one of the fastest ways to change your behavior. Think about where you spend most of your time. Is it noisy, messy, filled with temptations like snacks, social media, or constant interruptions? Or is it clean, calm, and designed to help you focus? Most people underestimate the power of physical space, but your brain is always scanning your environment for cues. When it sees a couch and a remote, it thinks relax. When it sees a desk and a notebook, it thinks work. Your surroundings silently shape your actions, even when you're not aware of it. Start with one small area, maybe your desk, your room, or your digital workspace. Remove anything that doesn't serve your current goal. Clutter is more than a visual distraction. It's a mental one. It makes you feel overwhelmed before you even begin. Clean spaces send a message of readiness. They tell your brain, this is a place where things happen. You don't need to redecorate your whole house. Just create one dedicated zone where you feel inspired to take action. Next, examine the digital part of your environment. Your phone, your laptop, your notifications. They're designed to pull your attention in 100 directions. Every ping, every alert, every open tab creates a tiny interruption that adds up to mental exhaustion. You might sit down to do one thing and end up doing 10 others, none of which matter. This isn't laziness. It's fragmentation. Your attention is being stolen in micro moments. Try this. Put your phone in another room for an hour. Close unnecessary tabs. Use a website blocker to limit access to distracting sites. These small changes can radically improve your focus and energy. The goal isn't to become a monk who avoids all technology. It's to take back control of what enters your mental space. Attention is your most valuable resource. Protect it like it matters, because it does. There's another side to your environment, and that's the people in it. The attitudes, habits, and energy of those around you deeply influence your own. If you're constantly surrounded by people who complain, procrastinate, or make excuses, that mindset rubs off on you. But if you spend time with people who take action, set goals, and support growth, that energy becomes contagious too. You don't need to cut people out of your life to change your environment, but you do need to be intentional about who and what you allow into your mental space. Seek out people, communities, or content that inspire you. Watch videos, read books, or follow creators who embody the discipline and focus you want. Surround yourself, physically and digitally, with examples of the life you're trying to build. Another important element is structure. A chaotic day breeds chaos in the mind. When your schedule is wide open, your brain tends to choose the easiest path, usually comfort and avoidance. But when your day has rhythm, it becomes easier to act. You don't need a strict routine. You just need a pattern. A few fixed points throughout the day can anchor your behavior and help you build momentum. Try setting a simple daily structure. For example, wake up at the same time. Start your morning with 10 minutes of planning or quiet focus. Work in blocks of time, like 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, and wind down in the evening with reflection or preparation for tomorrow. These patterns create predictability, which reduces mental resistance. When your brain knows what's coming, it doesn't waste energy deciding what to do next. Let's take an example. Imagine Alex, who wants to start writing each morning, but his environment works against him. He sleeps with his phone next to his bed, so he starts the day scrolling. His workspace is cluttered with papers and half-done projects everywhere. He has no set time to write, so it always gets pushed to later, which becomes never. He ends the day frustrated, thinking he lacks discipline. Now imagine Alex makes a few changes. He leaves his phone in another room at night. He tidies his desk and leaves only his notebook and pen visible. He sets a timer for 8 a.m. every day, and when it goes off, he sits down to write for just 10 minutes. No pressure to write a masterpiece, just to show up. After a week, those 10 minutes become 20, then 30. His brain starts associating mornings with creativity. His environment supports his goal instead of fighting it. Alex didn't become more disciplined overnight. He just made it easier to do the right thing. This is the power of environment design. You don't need more willpower. You need fewer obstacles. If you make the right actions easier and the wrong actions harder, your behavior will change naturally. Want to drink more water? Keep a bottle next to your computer. Want to avoid junk food? Don't keep it in your house. Want to read more? Put a book on your pillow. Make good habits obvious. Make bad habits invisible. As you go about your day, start noticing how your surroundings make you feel. Which spaces energize you? Which drain you? Where do you feel focused? Where do you feel stuck? Make small adjustments. Even one improvement, like clearing your desk or turning off notifications, can lead to noticeable progress. At the end of the day, your environment is either pulling you forward or pulling you back. The goal isn't perfection. It's intention. Create spaces that support the person you want to become, not just the person you've been. When your surroundings align with your goals, laziness loses its grip. Change your space, and you'll change your behavior. Change your behavior, and you'll change your life. Chapter 3. Most people think that to overcome laziness, they need more motivation. They wait for the right mood, the right moment, the right feeling to strike before they start doing what needs to be done. But here's a hard truth. Motivation is unreliable. It's like the weather, great when it shows up, but unpredictable and out of your control. If you depend on motivation to take action, you'll rarely act. The real solution is something far more powerful: building systems. A system is a set of routines, structures, and habits that carry you forward, even when you don't feel like it. Systems make action automatic. They reduce the need for willpower and protect you from falling into laziness. They act like invisible scaffolding around your day, gently guiding your energy in the right direction. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Let's say you want to become someone who reads more. You can set a goal to read 20 books this year, but if your system doesn't support it, that goal remains a wish. Now imagine you build a simple system. Every night before bed, you read one page, no matter what. You keep a book on your pillow, so it's always within reach. You set a daily reminder, not to finish a book, but just to start reading. Over time, this small system builds a habit, and the habit builds a result. Without relying on bursts of motivation, you become a reader. Systems are what successful people use to stay consistent. Athletes don't train only when they feel inspired. Writers don't wait for the muse to show up. They all have routines that keep them moving, even on hard days. And that's the secret. Systems work when motivation doesn't. When you create a life that makes the right actions easier, laziness naturally fades. Start by identifying one area of your life where laziness often takes over. Maybe it's exercise, work, cleaning, or personal projects. Then ask yourself, what system could I build to make this easier? Start with something small, repeatable, and obvious. Focus on process, not outcomes. The goal is not to do a lot. It's to do something consistently. One of the most effective systems you can build is the trigger action habit loop. It works like this. You choose a trigger, something that already happens regularly, and attach a new action to it. For example, after brushing your teeth in the morning trigger, you write down 3 tasks for the day action. After making coffee trigger, you stretch for 2 minutes action. This method uses your existing habits as anchors, making new behaviors easier to stick to. Another powerful system is time blocking. Most people drift through their days, reacting to tasks as they come up. But when you block out specific times for focused work, rest, and routines, you remove decision fatigue and reduce distractions. You don't ask, what should I do now? You already know because it's in your system. Time blocking doesn't mean every second of your day must be scheduled. It means giving your tasks a home so they don't float endlessly on a to-do list. Let's look at a real-life example. Mark struggles with procrastination at work. Every morning, he opens his email, scrolls social media, and tells himself he'll start soon. But soon becomes lunchtime and he feels like a failure. To fix this, Mark designs a new system. He sets a rule, no email or social media until after 10 a.m. He blocks off the first hour of the day for deep work, puts on noise-canceling headphones, and start with a task he enjoys to build momentum. Within 2 weeks, Mark notices something strange. He doesn't feel lazy in the mornings anymore. He feels focused, productive, proud, not because his motivation increased, but because his system changed. Systems also help you avoid one of laziness's best friends, decision fatigue. Every day, we make hundreds of small decisions, and each one drains a little bit of our mental energy. What to wear, what to eat, when to start, where to sit. When your brain is tired, it defaults to the easiest option, which is often doing nothing. But if your system includes things like prepping your clothes the night before, planning your meals ahead of time, or following a fixed routine, you reduce those tiny decisions and protect your energy for what really matters. Here's an important reminder. Your systems don't need to be perfect. They just need to be useful. You can always adjust them as your life changes. The key is to make them flexible enough to survive real life. Bad days, busy schedules, low moods. A good system doesn't collapse when things go wrong. It bends and adapts, helping you stay on track even when things aren't ideal. Many people also find it helpful to include accountability in their systems. This could mean telling a friend your plan, joining a group, or using a habit tracker. When you see visible progress, even in the form of a simple check mark, your brain gets a little hit of satisfaction. That positive reinforcement builds momentum, which fuels consistency. Finally, let's talk about mindset. People often believe they need to feel disciplined before they act disciplined. But action leads and feelings follow. You don't need to feel like the kind of person who exercises every day. You just need to do it once. Then again. Over time, your identity starts to shift. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who doesn't give in to laziness. This new self-image is incredibly powerful. It becomes the engine behind your systems. So as you move forward, stop asking, how can I stay motivated? And start asking, what system would make this easier? Design your day with intention. Build small, repeatable actions. Attach new habits to old ones. Track your progress. Protect your energy. And remember, consistency beats intensity. You don't need to do a lot. You just need to do a little every day. Laziness isn't your identity. It's a gap between your goals and your systems. Close the gap, and you'll unlock a version of yourself that's far more capable, confident, and consistent than you ever imagined. Chapter 4. One of the biggest myths about laziness is that it means you're doing nothing. But in truth, laziness is rarely passive. It's often full of activity, just the wrong kind. Scrolling endlessly, watching videos, refreshing your inbox, jumping from one small task to another while avoiding the big one. It feels like you're busy, but at the end of the day, nothing meaningful got done. This is not rest. It's avoidance disguised as productivity, and it's one of the cleverest tricks laziness plays. To overcome this, you need to master one of the most powerful skills, learning how to start. Starting is the hardest part of almost anything. Once you begin, momentum takes over. But before that, your mind throws up resistance. It whispers later, I'm tired, it's too much. If you can break through this initial resistance, even for just a few minutes, you'll often find the task isn't nearly as hard as you imagined. You don't need to finish it all. You just need to start. This is where the 2-minute rule comes in. The rule is simple. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. If it takes more, just commit to doing the first 2 minutes of it. Why does this work? Because the hardest part is showing up. Once you start, you're more likely to keep going. You trick your brain into action by making the task feel so small it's impossible to resist. Starting becomes your superpower. Let's imagine Sarah wants to get back into working out, but she keeps putting it off. Instead of promising herself a full workout, she decides to do just 2 minutes of stretching. That's it. No pressure. No gear. Just 2 minutes. After a few days, stretching leads to 5 minutes of light cardio. A week later, she finds herself doing full workouts again. The transformation didn't begin with motivation. It began with starting small. Another powerful tool is the concept of lowering the bar. High standard can be inspiring, but they can also paralyze you. When the only acceptable result is perfection, starting feels too risky. You fear failure before you begin, so you procrastinate. Laziness isn't always about comfort. It's often rooted in fear. The fear of doing it wrong. The fear of not being good enough. To fight this, you must give yourself permission to begin badly. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Think of your first attempt at anything like a rough draft. It's supposed to be messy, imperfect, and incomplete. That's how learning works. The goal is not to do it perfectly. It's to do it at all. Once something exists, even in a rough form, you can improve it, but you can't edit a blank page. The first step always comes before the best step. Another enemy of starting is overwhelm. Sometimes a task feels so big that your brain short-circuits. It doesn't know where to begin, so it shuts down. This is where breaking things down becomes crucial. Divide large goals into tiny steps. Instead of write a book, start with write one paragraph. Instead of clean the whole house, start with wash 5 dishes. These micro tasks are manageable, and every small win creates momentum. You can also use the countdown method. When you notice yourself hesitating, count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then act. This countdown interrupts the spiral of overthinking and gives your brain a clear signal to move. It sounds simple, but it works. It's a short circuit for hesitation and a nudge toward action. It's also helpful to create rituals around starting. Rituals are small, repeated actions that signal your brain it's time to begin. Athletes use them all the time, tying their shoes in a certain way, doing a warm-up routine, listening to a specific playlist. These little behaviors become psychological triggers. You can build your own. Maybe you light a candle before you write, or put on a specific playlist before you study. Whatever it is, let it mark the beginning of focused effort. Let's say James is trying to study more regularly. Every time he thinks about opening his textbook, he feels overwhelmed. So he creates a study ritual. He makes a cup of tea, clears his desk, and puts on lo-fi music. He doesn't start with a chapter. He starts with just 5 minutes of review. Over time, this ritual trains his brain to associate these actions with learning. Starting becomes automatic. It's no longer a decision. It's a rhythm. There's one more thing to remember about starting. It doesn't need to feel good. You don't need to be in the mood. You don't need a spark of inspiration. You just need to act. Waiting for the right feeling is like waiting for perfect weather to go for a walk. You'll miss out on so many beautiful days if you wait for flawless ones. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. When you move, your energy shifts. Your mindset follows your motion. It helps to track your starts instead of your finishes. Keep a journal or a simple calendar where you mark each day you showed up, not when you completed something big, but when you began. These small acts of consistency will build a chain. And once you see that chain growing, you'll want to keep it going. That visual cue becomes its own form of motivation. So if you're stuck, don't tell yourself, I have to do the whole thing. Tell yourself, I just have to start. Even if it's 1 minute, even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect. Action, not thought, is a cure for laziness. Start before you're ready. Start when you don't feel like it. Start when it's uncomfortable. Just start and let everything else follow. Because starting is the moment laziness loses its grip. It's the moment momentum begins. And it's the habit that will carry you further than any spark of motivation ever could. Chapter 5. If you've ever felt lazy, chances are you've also felt guilty about it. There's a heaviness that comes with knowing you're not doing what you should be doing, a silent self-judgment that grows the longer you wait. This guilt doesn't motivate. It paralyzes. It becomes a loop. You avoid action, feel guilty for avoiding it, then avoid it even more because the guilt makes you feel worse. And so, the cycle of inaction deepens. To overcome laziness, you have to understand and rewrite your internal dialogue. Laziness is not just a behavior. It's often a conversation happening in your mind. And for many, that conversation is brutal. Why can't I just get together? I'm so behind. I'll never catch up. These thoughts don't inspire action. They trigger shame. And when you feel ashamed, you retreat. You numb out. You stop trying. The way you speak to yourself matters. It's not about being unrealistically positive. It's about being honest and kind. It's about becoming your own coach, not your own bully. Imagine a child learning to ride a bike. If they fall and you yell, "You're hopeless," you'll never learn. What happens? They lose confidence. But if you say, "That's okay, everyone falls. Let's try again," they're far more likely to get back on. The same applies to you. Self-compassion isn't weakness. It's strength. It's fuel. It's what helps you keep going when things are hard. Studies have shown that people who practice self-compassion are more resilient, more consistent, and actually more productive. Not because they push themselves harder, but because they support themselves better. Let's say you didn't get anything done today. Instead of mentally punishing yourself, pause. Ask, what got in the way? Was I tired, distracted, overwhelmed? Then ask, what's one thing I can do now to take care of myself or get back on track? Maybe it's cleaning your space. Maybe it's going for a short walk. Maybe it's doing 5 minutes of that task you've been avoiding. The key is to move from guilt to curiosity, and from curiosity to action. Laziness is often a signal, not a character flaw. It can be your mind's way of saying, I'm tired, I'm afraid, or I'm confused. It's worth listening. Are you trying to do too much at once? Are your goals clear or vague and overwhelming? Are you comparing yourself to others and feeling behind? These hidden pressures can drain your energy without you even realizing it. Once you understand what's truly going on beneath the surface, you can address the root instead of just a symptom. It also helps to shift how you measure progress. Many people define a good day by how much they get done, but that mindset is fragile. Some days are naturally slower. Some tasks are more draining. Instead, measure success by your consistency, effort, and presence. Did you show up, even in a small way? Did you make a little progress, even if it wasn't dramatic? Did you keep going when it would have been easier to give up? These are signs of strength, not failure. Let's consider Emma, who's been trying to build a side business. Every time she skips a day, she beats herself up. I'm never going to make it. Other people are more disciplined. That guilt leads her to avoid her project even more. Eventually, she questions whether she should even try. But then she tries something new. She creates a bare minimum list. 3 tiny actions she can do even on low energy days. Some days it's just replying to 1 email or brainstorming ideas for 5 minutes. Slowly, she starts to rebuild momentum. She stops judging herself for being inconsistent and starts celebrating herself for staying in the game. And that mindset shift changes everything. Another reason guilt grows is because we often overpromise and underdeliver to ourselves. We say, tomorrow I'll catch up on everything, knowing deep down it's too much. Then when we fail to do the impossible, we feel worse. The solution? Make smaller, more realistic commitments. Underpromise and overdeliver. Start with 1 small thing you can absolutely complete. Build trust with yourself. Each time you follow through, no matter how small, you rebuild that internal credibility, and that's what gives you the strength to keep going. It's also important to remove labels. Stop calling yourself lazy. You're not lazy. You're human. You have moments of low energy, just like everyone else. You have days when you struggle to focus. That doesn't define you. Laziness is not an identity. It's a temporary state. And like all states, it can be changed 1 action at a time. If you treat every moment as a fresh opportunity, you don't need to carry the weight of yesterday's inaction. You can begin again. Right now, 1 small action can break the loop. 1 small win can shift your energy. 1 small decision can rewrite the story. And maybe that's the most important truth of all. You don't need to feel ready to start. You don't need to wait until you're in the perfect headspace. You just need to begin, messy and perfect, but moving. Don't try to win the whole battle today. Just take 1 step in the right direction. Speak to yourself like someone you want to help. Encourage yourself the way you'd encourage your best friend. And when you fall short, which you will, don't retreat. Reflect, reset, restart. You don't owe the world a perfect version of yourself, but you do owe yourself the chance to keep going. Progress isn't loud. It's quiet, gentle, And it often begins the moment you stop being hard on yourself and start being on your side. Chapter 7. Sometimes the real reason we feel lazy isn't because we don't want to do something, but because deep down, we don't know why we're doing it in the first place. Purpose is fuel. When we lack it, even simple tasks feel heavy. But when we're clear on our why, we can power through difficult days, push past resistance, and stay focused even when progress is slow. That's why overcoming laziness requires more than tactics. It requires meaning. Think about something you did with full energy and commitment. Maybe it was helping a friend, working on a personal project, or training for something you cared about. You probably didn't need to be pushed. You wanted to show up. You felt connected to it. The task had meaning, and meaning makes effort easier. Now compare that to the things you often procrastinate on. If you look closely, you'll notice they often feel disconnected from your core values or personal goals. They're things you think you should do, not things you truly want to do. And this is where laziness sneaks in, not as refusal, but as quiet resistance. Your mind doesn't fully buy in, so it drags its feet. To combat this, you need to realign your tasks with your deeper reasons. Start asking yourself better questions. Not why can't I get this done, but why does this matter to me? If it doesn't matter at all, if it's purely someone else's expectation or an outdated goal, then maybe it's time to let it go. Not everything deserves your energy. But if it does matter, if it connects to something bigger, then remind yourself of that connection often. Let's say you're working on a dull assignment at your job. It feels like a chore. You keep putting it off. But if you zoom out, maybe that assignment is part of a bigger goal, to build trust with your team, to grow your career, to free up time for work you enjoy more later. When you remember the larger purpose, even the small tasks feel more meaningful. That sense of meaning doesn't have to come from grand dreams. Sometimes it's as simple as wanting to be someone who keeps promises to themselves, or someone who takes care of their responsibilities with integrity, or someone who builds a life they're proud of, one little action at a time. These personal values give your tasks emotional weight, and when things feel important, you're far more likely to act. It's also helpful to write down your reasons. Put them where you can see them, on your wall, your mirror, your notebook, your phone wallpaper. These daily reminders act like little sparks. On days when you feel low on energy or motivation, they whisper to you, remember why you started. Sometimes laziness is also the result of unclear goals. If your goals are vague, like get in shape or start a business, your brain doesn't know what to do with them. They're too abstract, too open-ended. So it hesitates, stalls, or gives up. But when your goals are specific, go for a 20-minute walk after lunch or write one product idea today. They become much more manageable. Clarity reduces friction, and action becomes simpler. Let's look at Mia. She wants to improve her health, but keeps avoiding the gym. She tells herself she's lazy. But when she digs deeper, she realizes the gym intimidates her and the goal itself, get fit, feels too broad. So she redefines her why. I want more energy to play with my kids and feel good in my body. Then she sets a smaller goal. Do a 15-minute home workout 3 times a week. Suddenly, she's not lazy, she's just aligned. The shift in clarity and meaning gives her momentum. Purpose doesn't always come from within either. Sometimes it's built through action. You start something not because you're inspired, but because you're curious. You keep going because you begin to care. And before you know it, the work has meaning. Not because it started that way, but because you gave it meaning through your effort and attention. This is a powerful truth. You don't have to wait for purpose to find you. You can build it through doing. Another thing to consider is how your goals are connected to your identity. Humans are more likely to act in ways that are consistent with how they see themselves. If you say, I'm not disciplined, then every time you try to act, your brain will resist It's not aligned with your self-image. But if you start saying, I'm someone who finishes what they start, even if it's not fully true yet, your actions will begin to shift. Identity shapes behavior, and behavior reinforces identity. It's a feedback loop you can consciously shape. So, when you feel lazy, ask yourself, what do I care about? What kind of person do I want to be? How does this task, however small, fit into that bigger picture? Even if it's not thrilling or fun, even if it's mundane, it can still serve something meaningful. And that shift from meaningless to meaningful is what turns avoidance into action. In the end, energy doesn't just come from rest. It comes from purpose. You don't need to be constantly inspired, but you do need to feel like what you're doing matters. And when you connect your daily actions to something bigger, you'll find that laziness loses its grip. Not because you force yourself to work harder, but because you reminded yourself why it's worth it. Chapter 8. Laziness often hides behind perfectionism. It might sound strange at first. How could someone who wants everything to be perfect also be someone who procrastinates or avoids effort? But perfectionism is a sneaky trap. It sets standards so high, so rigid, that starting feels scary and finishing feels impossible. And when your brain senses danger, especially the danger of not measuring up, it naturally shuts down. That shutdown is what we call laziness, but the root is fear. Think about how many times you delayed starting something because you didn't know if you could do it right. Maybe you told yourself, I'll begin when I feel more ready, or I need to plan more before I start. These thoughts seem responsible, even smart, but they're really masks for hesitation. Behind them is often a deeper thought. What if I try and it's not good enough? Perfectionism convinces you that if it can't be done flawlessly, it shouldn't be done at all. That mindset doesn't drive excellence. It creates paralysis. Overcoming laziness means giving yourself permission to be imperfect, to start messy, and to make progress without obsessing over every detail. One powerful way to break through this is to aim for completion, not perfection. Done is better than perfect. Progress is better than potential. Your rough draft may not be brilliant. Your first workout might be clumsy. Your initial attempt might fall short. But each one is a necessary step forward. You can't improve what doesn't exist. Action creates clarity, and clarity creates better action. Let's consider Leo, who wants to launch a podcast. He researches equipment, scripts episodes, rewrites them, re-records, doubts the quality, and then does nothing. He's paralyzed by the idea that his first episode must be professional level perfect. Eventually, he makes a deal with himself. I'll publish one imperfect episode a week for a month, no matter what. He posts the first one. It's awkward, but he gets feedback, gains confidence, and learns quickly. By the third week, his skills are sharper. His energy returns. Laziness disappears because the fear that held him back has lost its power. Perfectionism can also disguise itself in overplanning. Planning is helpful, but only when it leads to action. If you find yourself constantly researching, tweaking your to-do list, or waiting for the right time, ask yourself if you're really preparing or just stalling. Preparation without execution is just another form of avoidance. Another hidden side of perfectionism is comparison. You look at others who are further ahead, more successful, more polished, more productive, and you feel small. You start believing there's no point in trying because you'll never catch up. But you're comparing your beginning to someone else's middle or end. Their results are built on hours of unseen effort, failed attempts, and rough starts. Your journey is not supposed to look like theirs. It's supposed to look like yours. To fight perfectionism, practice showing up as you are. Set smaller Messier goals. Write a bad page. Do a weak workout. Film a shaky video. The point isn't to be flawless. The point is to build momentum. Momentum doesn't come from waiting for inspiration. It comes from doing, even when the doing feels rough and uncertain. It also helps to track progress, not performance. Instead of asking, was this good enough? Ask, did I move forward today? Focus on consistency. Create streaks. Reward yourself for showing up, not for being brilliant. This mindset creates a positive feedback loop, one where your identity starts to shift from I'm lazy to I'm someone who keeps going. There's also a freedom in accepting imperfection. When you stop needing to be impressive, you become unstoppable. You're no longer afraid to try, to fail, to learn. You treat life like a series of experiments. Some things work, some things don't, but you stay in motion. And motion, more than motivation or inspiration, is what beats laziness. Try this experiment. Commit to 15 minutes a day of something you've been avoiding. Not to finish it, not to do it well, just to touch it. You'll be amazed how often 15 minutes turns into 30 or more. You'll realize that action isn't a result of feeling ready. It's the cause. You get ready by doing. You build confidence by starting. Perfectionism also shrinks your world. It makes everything about you, how you'll be judged, how you'll measure up, how you'll be perceived. But the truth is, most people aren't thinking about you. They're too busy thinking about themselves. When you let go of the need to impress, you open yourself up to actually connect. You focus less on appearing perfect and more on being present. And in that space, effort becomes lighter. You rediscover the joy of simply doing the thing. Not for praise, not for approval, but for growth. So if laziness has been clinging to you like a shadow, ask yourself, am I actually lazy or am I afraid to be imperfect? Then give yourself permission to try anyway. Make mistakes. Be messy. Move forward. Because perfection never arrives. But progress? Progress is always waiting at the edge of action. Chapter 9. Laziness isn't something you get rid of in one grand moment of breakthrough. It's something you unlearn little by little through choices. Day after day, action after action, you replace hesitation with movement, doubt with courage, confusion with clarity. It doesn't happen in a straight line. Some days you'll slip back into old habits. That's part of the process. But what matters most is that you keep returning to motion. By now, you've seen how laziness is rarely just about being lazy. It's a signal. Sometimes it means you're overwhelmed. Sometimes it means you're afraid. Sometimes you're disconnected from purpose, paralyzed by perfection, or trapped in a draining environment. And sometimes you're simply tired. The problem isn't that you lack discipline. It's that you haven't been shown how to make action easier, lighter, and more meaningful. You've learned how energy is not always something you wait for. It's something you generate. You don't have to feel inspired to begin. You begin and inspiration follows. You've seen how small actions, 5-minute habits, tiny wins, clear goals can build serious momentum. How structure doesn't restrict you. It frees you. How designing your environment and mastering your mind gives you leverage over your behavior. And maybe most importantly, you discover that your identity is not fixed. You are not a lazy person. You are a human being who sometimes avoids hard things, just like all of us. But you can choose right now to see yourself differently, to act as if you're someone who follows through, someone who starts, who learns, who grows. You don't need to fake it. You just need to do it. Start showing up as the version of yourself you want to become. Want to be productive? Start with one focused task. Want to be strong? Do one round of exercise. Want to be creative? Write one paragraph. Sketch one idea. Build one thing. Want to be dependable? Keep one promise. One action creates the next. Identity isn't declared. It's earned through repetition. But none of this means you have to grind every minute. Rest is part of the journey. So is joy. So is boredom. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to do less. The point of overcoming laziness isn't to become a machine. It's to reclaim your agency, to stop letting procrastination steal your potential, to stop living in the waiting room of life, telling yourself, I'll start when I feel ready. Ready is a myth. Action is real. There's no single solution that works for everyone, but the most powerful tools are often the simplest. A clear reason, a specific goal, a small first step, and a system that makes progress easier than avoidance. If you ever feel stuck again, and you will, come back to these basics. Don't overthink. Don't wait to feel right. Just move. Movement is medicine. It breaks the spell of paralysis. Even the smallest step forward is a rebellion against stagnation. And the more you move, the more alive you feel. Laziness fades not because you crush it, but because you replace it with momentum. In the end, it's not about never feeling lazy again. It's about learning how to respond to those moments with self-awareness, not self-judgment, with curiosity, not shame. It's about building a life where action feels natural, aligned, and worth it. A life where effort serves something meaningful. And that life is within reach. Not someday. Not when you're more motivated. But now. So go ahead, close this book, stand up, and take one small step. Your future is waiting on the other side of action.